Chapter 14 Dark Secrets Unveiled. The passageway beyond the barrier opened into a vast subterranean cavern, its immense size causing the air to feel heavy with the weight of time. The walls of the cavern were etched with ancient murals, their colors faded but still visible enough to tell stories of forgotten epics. The murals depicted vibrant underwater scenes, schools of fish swimming through magical currents, mythical sea creatures entwined in combat, and powerful wizards casting spells that seemed to manipulate the very essence of water. Each image told a tale, one more mysterious than the last, and as Adrian and Serena stepped into the cavern, they couldn't help but feel that they had crossed into a realm far older and more enchanted than they had imagined. The air in the cavern was damp and cool, carrying with it the scent of salt water and earth. Small stalactites dripped from the ceiling, and the soft echo of water trickling from hidden springs created a soothing background hum. But despite the serenity of the cavern's ambience, there was an undeniable tension in the atmosphere, as if the space itself held its breath, waiting. Bioluminescent fungi clung to the walls, their gentle glow casting an eerie light over the cavern, and as Adrian and Serena moved further in, the shadows seemed to shift and dance in ways that suggested they were not entirely alone. It was as if the cavern itself were alive, reacting to their presence. Serena stepped forward, her sharp eyes scanning the murals with a quiet reverence. She could feel the magic in the air, thick and tangible, the same way one might sense a storm before it broke. These murals, they tell the history of the reef, its guardians, and the magic that binds it together, she said softly, her voice carrying a hint of awe. Adrian, too, felt the weight of the cavern's ancient energy pressing in on him, but he remained focused on the goal. He knew that the reef wasn't just a place of beauty, it was a place of power, and whatever lay ahead would require every ounce of their resolve. The deeper they ventured into the cavern, the more intricate the murals became. Scenes of ancient rituals and powerful spells, depicted in rich detail, adorned the walls. Some of the paintings seemed to shimmer faintly, as if alive with magic. The cavern floor, made of smooth, worn stone, was dotted with pools of crystal-clear water that reflected the eerie light of the fungi, adding to the sense of otherworldly beauty. As Adrian's gaze shifted from the murals to the pools, he noticed that the water in one of them seemed to ripple unnaturally, as if stirred by an unseen force. He exchanged a glance with Serena, and though either of them spoke, they both knew that this was no ordinary cavern. They were standing in a place of profound significance, one that would likely hold many secrets yet to be uncovered. Their steps echoed softly as they walked deeper, their senses heightened by the cavern's strange stillness. Serena paused, her eyes narrowing in concentration. "We're getting closer," she murmured. "I can feel the magic intensifying. There's something ahead, something important." Adrian nodded, his hand instinctively resting on the hilt of his sword. He was acutely aware of how the air seemed to hum with energy, the magical vibrations growing stronger with each step they took. They had already faced many challenges in the reef, but this place, this ancient cavern, felt different. It was as if they had crossed into the very heart of the reef's power, a place where the old magic still thrummed with life. As they rounded a bend in the cavern, the air grew thicker, and the light from the bioluminescent fungi seemed to dim, as though swallowed by the approaching darkness. A faint, melodic sound reached their ears, like the distant hum of a song sung by an unseen voice. The sound seemed to vibrate through the stone, filling the space with an eerie sense of anticipation. Adrian's heart quickened, his instincts on high alert. Serena's expression had become more focused, her eyes searching the darkness ahead. "Whatever lies ahead," she said, her voice low, "we must approach with caution. The reef has tested us, but this place, it is different." Adrian's grip tightened on his sword as they continued forward, ready for whatever challenges or revelations this ancient, magical place would offer them next. As they continued through the cavern, the sense of awe and mystery that had initially filled Adrian and Serena began to give way to something heavier. Serena's gaze grew distant, her eyes fixated on the ancient murals that lined the cavern walls. Her expression, once filled with determination, now carried an unmistakable mixture of sorrow and resolve. The vibrant colors and intricate scenes of mythical creatures and powerful wizards seemed to reflect memories long buried, stirring something deep within her. She had seen magic like this before, ancient, powerful, and dangerous, and the memories of her past, ones she had worked hard to bury, were now resurfacing. Adrian, sensing the subtle shift in her demeanor, paused in his steps and looked over at her with growing concern. His gaze softened, and for a moment, the vastness of the cavern seemed to fade into the background as he focused entirely on her. "Serena," he called gently, his voice breaking through the stillness of the cavern. "What's on your mind?" The question was simple, but it carried with it an unspoken understanding, a recognition that something deeper was troubling her. Serena had been the driving force behind their journey, her confidence and knowledge lighting the way. But now she seemed a shadow of that self-assured leader, lost in her thoughts. She did not immediately answer, her eyes still lingering on a particular mural, a scene of a powerful sorceress standing atop a rocky outcrop, her hands raised as she controlled the currents of a great storm. The image struck a chord in Serena, a reminder of her own past, her own involvement with forces far beyond her control. Finally, with a deep breath, Serena turned to Adrian, her expression betraying a vulnerability she rarely allowed to show. "This place," she began, her voice quiet and distant. "It reminds me of something from my past. A time when I was deeply involved in the magic of the reef. I made a choice back then, one that I've regretted ever since." Her eyes searched his face, as if seeking some kind of understanding. Adrian remained silent, his gaze steady as he listened to her words. He had always known that Serena was no stranger to the darker aspects of magic, but this revelation was different. The regret in her voice was palpable, and for the first time, he saw the weight she had been carrying, hidden beneath her unwavering determination. "What happened?" he asked softly, his concern growing. Serena hesitated, her fingers brushing over the edge of the mural as though tracing the contours of her memories. The walls of the cavern seemed to close in around them, amplifying the intimacy of the moment, the vulnerability in Serena's voice carrying a rawness that left Adrian feeling both protective and helpless. She exhaled slowly, gathering her thoughts before continuing. "Years ago, I was part of a group that sought to control the magic of the reef. We believed that we could harness its power to reshape the world, to bend the currents of fate itself. But we were foolish. We underestimated the forces we were meddling with, and in the end, I lost everything. The power we sought was not meant for mortal hands." Her voice faltered, but she quickly regained her composure. "That's why I've been so focused on protecting the reef. I swore never to repeat the mistakes I made." Her eyes met his, a flicker of pain in them, but also a quiet determination. "This place, these murals, they remind me of the past I'm trying to outrun." Adrian's heart ached for her as the weight of her words settled between them. He stepped closer, his voice gentle but unwavering. "Serena, you've changed. You've learned from your past, and you're not the same person you were then." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The choices you made don't define you now. You're here, fighting for something greater than yourself. And you're not alone in this." His eyes softened with a mixture of empathy and admiration. Serena had been the pillar of their journey, and now it was his turn to be that support for her. The cavern, with all its haunting beauty, suddenly seemed a little less ominous, its shadows less oppressive, as they stood there together, bound by their shared resolve. "Serena," Adrian began gently, his voice soft but insistent. He could sense the weight of her thoughts, the way the cavern seemed to close in around them, echoing the unease in her heart. His eyes searched hers, his expression filled with concern. "I can see that something's troubling you. If there's more to the reef's magic and your curse, I think it's time you shared it with me." His words hung in the air between them, carrying the weight of both their shared journey and the deepening trust that had built between them over the course of their trials. The glow of the bioluminescent fungi cast a soft light on their faces, but it did little to mask the tension that had settled in Serena's posture. Serena's gaze flickered away from his, her eyes scanning the cavern as if she could find an escape in its endless expanse. She had never intended to burden Adrian with the darker parts of her past, let alone the dangerous secrets of her connection to the reef's magic. But the truth was inescapable now. The very magic they were trying to harness, the forces they were struggling to understand, were tied to her in ways she hadn't fully revealed. The past she had tried so hard to bury was beginning to resurface, and the consequences of those forgotten choices were starting to take shape. She could feel the weight of it pressing down on her chest, suffocating her. With a quiet sigh, Serena finally turned back to face him, her eyes filled with a mixture of resignation and determination. "I knew this day would come," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, as though speaking the words aloud would make them even more real. "The reef's magic, it's not just something I studied, something I've learned to control. It's bound to me in ways I never fully understood." She paused, gathering her thoughts before continuing. The cavern around them seemed to breathe with the pulse of the magic, a constant reminder of the forces that both enchanted and haunted her. "My curse, Adrian, it's tied to the very heart of the reef. I thought I could walk away from it, but the deeper we go, the more I realize how much of it is still inside me." Adrian listened intently, his heart aching as he watched the vulnerability that had always been so carefully guarded in Serena now unfold before him. He stepped closer, his presence a steady force that seemed to anchor her in the midst of her turmoil. "I don't understand," he said, his voice filled with compassion. "What do you mean, tied to the heart of the reef? You've been hiding this curse, but what's its true nature?" He wanted to push further, to demand answers, but he knew that now was not the time for urgency. Serena had always been guarded, and this was no simple matter. The revelation she was about to share would change everything. Serena closed her eyes for a moment, steadying herself. "Years ago," she began, her voice steady but laced with regret, "I was part of a group that sought to control the magic of this place. We believed we could harness the reef's power, bend it to our will. We didn't understand the consequences." Her hands clenched at her sides, as though the memories themselves were capable of binding her. "In my arrogance, I allowed myself to become part of that experiment, to draw the magic into me. The curse, Adrian, is that the reef's magic is now a part of me. It's in my blood. It's a force that seeks to consume me, and I thought I could escape it by walking away, but the reef has never let go. Now, as we venture deeper into its heart, I can feel it calling to me again, pulling me in." The weight of Serena's confession hung heavily in the air, and Adrian felt a deep sense of awe and sorrow. He could see now why she had kept this from him, why the burden of her past had been so carefully hidden. The reef, the very source of her power, was also the source of her curse. She had spent so long trying to separate herself from it, but in the end, the magic was an inescapable part of who she was. Adrian's heart tightened as he reached out to place a hand on her shoulder, offering what comfort he could in the face of such a monumental revelation. "You don't have to face this alone," Adrian said softly, his voice unwavering. "Whatever's in the reef, whatever it's trying to do to you, we'll face it together. You've carried this burden for so long, but it's not just yours anymore. We're in this, Serena. We're going to find a way to break this curse." His words were a vow, a promise forged from the deep connection they had built through their shared trials. He could see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, but he was resolute. They had come this far together, and whatever lay ahead, they would face it as one. Serena took a deep breath, her gaze shifting to the ancient murals that adorned the cavern walls. The delicate images were faded with time, but their depiction of underwater life and mystical events was still clear enough to send a shiver down her spine. Each panel told the story of the reef's early days, when it had been a place of harmony and balance. Yet, as she studied the murals, Serena's mind drifted to the darker truths hidden beneath the surface. She knew this moment had come. There was no turning back. Adrian had to understand the full extent of the danger they faced. "You're right," she said, her voice steady but filled with an underlying sadness. "There are dark secrets hidden within the reef's history, and it's time you knew the truth." Her eyes lingered on a particularly vivid mural, one that depicted a group of powerful figures standing before a great stone altar, their hands raised in unison. The figures were bathed in a radiant glow, their connection to the magical forces of the reef unmistakable. Serena felt the weight of their gaze, as if the very figures themselves were urging her to share what had been locked away for so long. The origins of my curse and the reef's enchantments are intertwined, she continued, her voice softer now, as though the chamber itself was listening. This place, its magic, and my own, they were once part of something far more dangerous than anyone could have ever anticipated. The mural's colors seemed to shift as Serena spoke, almost as if the reef itself responded to the mention of its ancient, dark past. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her pack, her thoughts clouded with memories that had haunted her for years. Long ago, the reef was ruled by a powerful group of magicians who sought to control its magic, Serena explained. They believed the reef's energy could grant them eternal life and limitless power. I was one of them, a willing participant in their experiments. I had been so young, so naive, believing that I could control the forces we were tapping into. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Her eyes met Adrian's, her vulnerability laid bare for the first time. The cavern seemed to grow colder as the memories surged forward, threatening to overwhelm her. But we were wrong, Serena continued, her voice thick with emotion. The magic of the reef is not something that can be controlled or manipulated. It is wild, unpredictable, and far older than any of us realized. The experiment, it went terribly wrong. In our quest for power, we inadvertently bound the reef's magic to me, making me its unwilling vessel. Her hands trembled slightly as she spoke, and she quickly clasped them together to steady herself. The past was never as easy to confront as she had hoped. The curse was the result of our hubris. It fused the magic with my very soul, and since then, I've carried its burden. Adrian's heart ached for her as she shared this part of her past, a past that had shaped the woman he had come to know. He could see the pain in her eyes, the years of regret and guilt that still clung to her. But he also saw the strength she had drawn from those years of struggle. She had endured this curse alone for so long, and now, here they were, together, facing the trials of the reef. Serena's voice grew steadier as she spoke the final piece of the truth. I've spent my life trying to distance myself from the reef, trying to find a way to break the curse. But the deeper we go into the heart of this place, the more I feel its pull, its power growing stronger. It's not just the reef's magic that we have to contend with, it's what it has become inside me. Serena turned her gaze back to Adrian, her eyes searching his face for any sign of judgment or fear. Instead, she saw only determination and understanding. I didn't want to drag you into this, Adrian. I thought I could handle it on my own, that I could protect you from the danger. But now I realize that the only way to break the curse is to confront it fully, and I can't do that without you. She paused, her breath shaky but resolute. We have to face the heart of the reef, and together, we can undo what was done all those years ago. Serena moved slowly toward the large mural that dominated one wall of the cavern. The image depicted a grand underwater city, its towering spires stretching gracefully toward the surface of the water, where faint light pierced the depths. The city appeared alive, its streets bustling with people, magical creatures, and shimmering structures that seemed to pulse with an energy all their own. In the center of the mural stood a solitary figure, arms outstretched as though commanding the very forces of the sea. Around them swirled an ethereal aura of magic, a golden light that seemed to radiate with power. The depiction was mesmerizing, but as Serena gazed upon it, a deep sorrow filled her eyes. Her fingers gently traced the outlines of the figure at the heart of the city, a silent reverence in her movements. This is how the reef once was, she began, her voice soft, yet carrying the weight of ages. Before the curse, before the magic twisted beyond our control. She paused, her expression distant as she took in the scene before her thoughts adrift in the currents of time. The figure in the center of the mural is the one who first unlocked the magic of the reef. They were a great sorcerer, someone who believed they could wield its power without consequence. Serena's voice held a trace of melancholy as she continued, her words unraveling the long-hidden history of the place. But they were wrong. The reef's magic cannot be controlled. It is a force too powerful, too ancient for any one person to master. Adrian stepped closer, his curiosity piqued by her words, but he sensed the pain in her tone. the weight of something personal that she was only now revealing. Serena turned toward him, her gaze lingering on the figure in the mural before she met his eyes. "The sorcerer's name was Azrael," she said quietly, as if the name itself held a power that had been dormant for centuries. Azrael was a visionary, one of the original magicians who discovered the reef's magic and sought to harness it for the good of their people. But as they delved deeper into the magic, something shifted. The magic began to consume them, and Azrael became something else, something darker. She took a deep breath, steadying herself as she continued. "I was their apprentice, chosen to learn from them. I was young, naive, and eager to prove myself." Serena's hands clenched at her sides, her fingers digging into her palms as if trying to ground herself in the present. "Azrael and I, together, we attempted to tap into the core of the reef's magic, believing we could use it to bring prosperity and eternal life to the city. But we were blinded by ambition. We didn't understand what we were tampering with." Her voice faltered for a moment, the weight of the past threatening to swallow her whole. Azrael's connection to the magic deepened, and they began to change. The once noble figure became obsessed, and their magic grew unstable. "I tried to warn them, but by then, it was too late." Serena's eyes darkened as the memories came rushing back. The magic tore the city apart, sinking it into the depths and trapping it in an eternal storm. Azrael's final act was to bind the magic to me, believing that I could contain it. But instead, the curse was born. Adrian, now fully understanding the depth of Serena's connection to the reef and its history, felt the weight of her words. He stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder in a gesture of comfort. She did not pull away, allowing the moment of solidarity. "The curse was the result of our greed," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It was meant to keep the magic contained, but it only served to tie me to it. The city, the people, everything we knew, all lost. And the magic, the very force that had once been a blessing, became a prison I could never escape from." Serena took a step back, her gaze returning to the mural, her fingers brushing over the ancient stone surface as if she could somehow reach through time and undo the damage. "That's why I've been avoiding the reef, trying to distance myself from this place," she continued, her voice trembling with the weight of years of regret. "But now, as we venture deeper, I can feel the magic drawing me in again. The curse is tied to the heart of the reef, and to truly break it, I have to confront Azrael's legacy and the devastation we caused." She turned toward Adrian, her expression a mixture of resolve and vulnerability. "This journey, this trial, is not just about breaking my curse. It's about undoing the mistakes of the past, and finding a way to release the magic that binds me to this place. But to do that, I need you by my side, as I face what we unleashed. Many centuries ago, this reef was the heart of a thriving underwater kingdom." Serena began, her voice soft but full of reverence for the lost world she was describing. "It was a kingdom of breathtaking beauty, where the coral gardens stretched as far as the eye could see and the waters shimmered with the vibrancy of life. The kingdom was ruled by a queen, one who possessed an unrivaled bond with the sea and its creatures. She was a wise and benevolent ruler, loved by her people, both human and sea creature alike. Under her reign, the kingdom flourished, and the reef became a sanctuary for all manner of life, from the smallest fish to the grandest sea serpents." As she spoke, Serena's gaze lingered on the faded murals that lined the cavern walls, depicting scenes of the kingdom's golden age. The images showed the queen, her long hair flowing like the currents, standing tall and regal among the creatures of the deep. Her hands were always extended, as if guiding the waters themselves, while the creatures of the sea swam peacefully around her. "The queen's magic was a gift," Serena continued, her tone full of awe. "It was drawn from the heart of the reef, a crystal of unimaginable power that rested at the core of the kingdom. This crystal was more than just a source of magic. It was the very essence of the kingdom itself, a symbol of the queen's deep connection to the sea." Serena paused for a moment, allowing the weight of her words to settle before continuing. "The heart of the reef was not just a magical artifact, but a living force," she explained. "It pulsed with the rhythms of the ocean, and the queen's power was tied to it in a way that kept the kingdom in harmony with the natural world. It allowed her to heal the sick, calm the storms, and ensure the prosperity of the kingdom. The magic was benevolent, a force for life, for balance. And it was not just the queen who drew from it, her people did, in ways small and large. The magic was part of their daily lives, woven into the fabric of their society. As she spoke, Serena's expression darkened, and her voice lowered, as though she could feel the shadows of the past creeping in. But as with all great power, there were those who sought to control it. Some among the queen's court grew envious of the heart's influence, desiring its power for themselves. They believed that they could harness the heart's magic without the queen's guidance, without the deep connection to the sea. It was a grave mistake. Serena's hands clenched at her sides, and she shook her head, as if trying to push the haunting memories from her mind. The heart of the reef was not meant to be wielded by just anyone. It could not be separated from its bond with the queen and the sea. Those who tried to take it for their own purposes unwittingly set into motion the curse that would doom the kingdom. The heart of the reef's magic was twisted by their greed. Serena continued, her voice tinged with sorrow. As the heart's power was drawn away from the queen, the balance of the kingdom began to falter. The waters grew turbulent, the creatures of the sea began to turn on each other, and the once thriving kingdom began to fall into ruin. Desperation led to chaos, and the queen, in her effort to save her people, made the ultimate sacrifice. Serena's voice trembled slightly, but she forced herself to continue. She bound the heart's magic to the reef itself, to the land and the waters, creating a barrier to protect what remained. But the curse that followed her actions did not only afflict the kingdom, it spread to those who had betrayed her. The heart's magic became a prison, a never-ending cycle of punishment and regret. Serena's eyes hardened with determination as she turned to Adrian. This is the legacy of the reef, the beauty, the magic, the destruction. It's why I've been so reluctant to face it. But the truth is, the curse can only be broken by returning the heart to its rightful place, and that means confronting everything that happened here. This journey isn't just about freeing me from my own curse. It's about restoring balance to the magic of the reef, and undoing the wrongs that were done all those centuries ago. Serena's hand trembled slightly as she pointed to the mural on the cavern wall, where the queen was depicted in all her regal glory. In the painting, she stood tall, surrounded by sea creatures, her hair flowing like the currents themselves, and in her hands she held the heart of the reef. The crystal glowed with an ethereal light, its radiant energy illuminating the underwater scene. The heart of the reef was the source of the kingdom's strength and prosperity. Serena explained, her voice full of reverence. It was more than just a magical artifact. It was the lifeblood of the entire kingdom. The queen's connection to the heart was profound. It was a bond that allowed her to channel the power of the sea itself. The queen in the mural looked serene, almost otherworldly, standing as a symbol of grace and power. Around her, schools of fish swirled in harmony, and majestic sea creatures swam freely. The heart's light radiated outward, casting a warm, protective glow that seemed to fill the entire scene with peace. The heart maintained the balance of magic. Serena continued, her gaze fixed on the mural. It ensured that the forces of the sea and its inhabitants remained in harmony. No one creature dominated over another. The magic of the heart kept the ecosystem in balance, allowing the kingdom to thrive in ways that were unheard of in other parts of the world. Serena took a step closer to the mural, her finger tracing the delicate edges of the heart's glowing depiction. With the heart's power, the queen could heal the sick, calm violent storms, and guide the ebb and flow of the tides. It gave her dominion over the sea, but not in a way that harmed it. The magic was about protection, about fostering life, not control. It was a gentle magic, one that respected the delicate balance of nature. Her voice softened as she spoke, as if remembering the tranquility that once reigned in the kingdom. It was a kingdom where the creatures of the sea, both great and small, lived in peace with each other. The queen's people, too, benefited from the heart's magic, as the land above the water flourished under the same protective power. But as Serena spoke, her expression darkened. She pulled her hand away from the mural and stepped back, her mind clearly reflecting on the darker side of the story. But like all powerful forces, the heart of the reef was vulnerable to corruption. not everyone in the Queen's court appreciated the delicate balance the heart maintained. There were those who sought to control the power of the heart for their own gain, believing that they could harness it without the wisdom or understanding the Queen had. Serena's tone grew strained, and her eyes flickered with a flash of frustration. The Queen's connection to the heart was not just a matter of magic, it was a spiritual bond. Those who sought to exploit it failed to understand that the heart could not be wielded by just anyone. They sought its power without the responsibility to uphold the balance. The murals around them, which once depicted such peace and harmony, now seemed to tell a story of loss and betrayal. Serena's eyes lingered on the depiction of the Queen, her face filled with sorrow, as if she were already sensing the upcoming betrayal. The kingdom's downfall began when those with ambition twisted the heart's magic. They believed they could take it for themselves, but their greed disrupted the harmony that had once existed. The consequences were catastrophic. The kingdom began to wither, and the creatures of the sea became restless. What was once a paradise became a battleground, with the heart at the center of the chaos. Serena paused, her eyes now meeting Adrian's with a mix of determination and sorrow. That is when the Queen made her final, desperate choice. To save what was left of the kingdom, she bound the heart's magic to the reef itself, locking it away to prevent anyone from exploiting it again. But that act, while protecting the realm, also cursed it. The heart's magic was no longer a force for good. It became a prison, trapping the Queen's spirit and the power of the heart in an eternal cycle of corruption. The reef, once a sanctuary, became a place of torment for those who had wronged the kingdom. And it's this curse that we now must face. Adrian's voice broke the heavy silence that followed Serena's story, his words tinged with both curiosity and empathy. His gaze remained fixed on her, his mind racing with questions as he tried to piece together the complex history of the reef and the curse that now enveloped it. What happened to change everything? He asked, his voice low but filled with genuine concern. The cavern around them, once filled with serenity, now felt like a place steeped in mystery and tragedy, its very walls holding the weight of the past. Serena closed her eyes for a moment, as if collecting her thoughts before continuing. She took a deep breath, her chest rising with the effort. The Queen's decision to bind the heart of the reef was meant to protect the kingdom, she began, her tone grave. But the magic she used to seal it away was more than just a safeguard, it was a curse. When the heart was sealed, the Queen's life force became intertwined with the magic, trapping her in an eternal slumber. The reef, once vibrant and teeming with life, became a desolate place. The creatures, too, were affected. Those that had once lived in harmony began to fall into darkness, corrupted by the very magic that was meant to protect them. The peace of the kingdom shattered in an instant. Serena's hand moved slowly, tracing the lines of the mural once more, her fingers lingering on the image of the Queen. But it wasn't just the creatures or the kingdom that suffered. She continued, her voice faltering slightly. The Queen's closest allies, the ones who had betrayed her in their greed, were cursed as well. Their ambition had led them to seek the heart's power, and for their sins, they were doomed to roam the reef as twisted shadows of their former selves. Now they are the guardians of the reef, twisted, bitter remnants of the people they once were, tasked with protecting the very thing they destroyed. Adrian felt a chill run through him as he listened to Serena's words. The idea of those who had once been noble now trapped in the reef as guardians, their forms corrupted by the magic they had sought to control, was both tragic and eerie. So, the curse is not just on the heart, but on everyone involved in the betrayal, he murmured, more to himself than to Serena. He had always known that curses were powerful forces, but this was beyond anything he had ever encountered. The very land, the creatures, and even the spirits of the kingdom were bound to the consequences of that betrayal. Serena nodded, her eyes dark with the weight of the history she was revealing. Exactly. The reef is a prison for them now, their souls bound to the land, unable to escape the consequences of their actions. The barrier we just passed was just the beginning of the trials set in place to test those who would dare enter this place. But the real challenge lies ahead, breaking the curse that has plagued the reef for centuries. She met Adrian's gaze, her eyes filled with determination. The heart is the key, but to free it, and the Queen, will require more than just solving puzzles or defeating monsters. We will have to face the very magic that binds this place, and perhaps even the ghosts of the past themselves. Adrian's resolve hardened as he took in Serena's words. He could feel the weight of the journey ahead pressing on him, but he also felt an unshakable sense of purpose. "Then let's face it," he said, his voice firm. "Together, we'll find a way to break the curse and set things right. No matter what we face, we'll do it side by side." His hand reached out to gently rest on Serena's shoulder, a silent promise to stand with her through whatever trials awaited. Serena looked at him, a faint smile crossing her lips for the first time in what felt like forever. The bond between them had deepened, and in that moment, they both knew that they were ready for whatever lay ahead. Serena's expression darkened, her eyes clouded with the memory of a distant, painful past. "The kingdom's peace was shattered by a betrayal," she said, her voice thick with the weight of the history she was forced to relive. "A powerful sorcerer, consumed by jealousy and greed, sought to seize the heart of the reef for himself." Her words hung heavy in the air, each one filled with the bitterness of a wound that had never fully healed. He was once a trusted advisor to the Queen, a figure of great power in the kingdom. But his ambition grew too large, and the Queen's refusal to hand over the heart drove him to madness. Serena's gaze wandered to the mural before them, where the sorcerer was depicted as a shadowy figure, his hands reaching toward the glowing heart, his expression twisted with greed. He unleashed dark magic upon the kingdom, causing chaos and destruction. She continued, her voice tinged with sorrow. The magic was unlike anything the kingdom had ever seen, a force of pure corruption. It tore through the land, warping the natural balance of the sea and turning once peaceful creatures into monsters of pure malice. The once thriving coral reefs began to wither, the waters darkened, and the once clear skies grew thick with storm clouds. It was as if the very essence of the kingdom was being corrupted by his rage. Her hand trembled slightly as she pointed to the part of the mural where the sorcerer's magic spread outward, wrapping around the kingdom like a monstrous tendril. In his desperation, the Queen made a choice. Serena continued, her voice barely above a whisper. To save the kingdom and protect the heart, she used her own magic to create a barrier, one that would protect the heart of the reef but at a terrible cost. The heart's power, intertwined with her own, bound her to the magic, and she fell into a deep, eternal slumber, trapped in the very magic that was meant to save her people. Adrian stood silent, the enormity of Serena's words sinking in. He could see the Queen, a regal figure in the mural, her outstretched arms encircling the heart, as if she were embracing the very thing that had ultimately led to her downfall. "And the sorcerer?" he asked quietly, his voice filled with both pity and anger. "What happened to him?" Serena's expression hardened, her eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and fury. The sorcerer's betrayal did not go unpunished. The Queen's magic sealed him away, trapping him in the very depths of the reef, where he would never again harm anyone. But his punishment was not death. No, it was far worse. His body was twisted by the dark magic he had used, and he was transformed into a guardian of the reef, cursed to remain in this place, guarding the heart of the reef for eternity. His soul is now bound to the very magic he sought to control, and he roams the waters, a shadow of his former self, a reminder of the price of his greed. Adrian could feel the weight of the sorrow in Serena's voice as she spoke of the sorcerer's fate, but there was also a deep sense of bitterness in her words. The past was not just a distant story. It was a living, breathing thing that haunted this reef and shaped their present. "This is why we're here, isn't it?" Adrian said, his gaze fixed on Serena. "To break the curse. To undo what was done so long ago." Serena nodded solemnly, her resolve stealing in the face of the task ahead. "Yes," she replied, "but it won't be easy. The curse is woven into the very fabric of the reef, and to break it, we will need to face not only the magic but the consequences of the past, confronting the very guardians who were once part of this kingdom's downfall." The mural shifted before them, revealing a scene of devastation. Once pristine towers now lay crumbled and broken, their spires engulfed by swirling tendrils of dark magic. The vibrant underwater city had been consumed by chaos, its once beautiful streets now twisted and flooded with shadow. Serena's voice trembled as she spoke, the weight of the scene reflected in her words. In a desperate bid to protect the heart of the reef, the queen sacrificed herself, she said, her tone heavy with emotion. Her eyes lingered on the image, as if tracing the remnants of a time long past. The queen's love for her kingdom was boundless, and when the sorcerer's magic grew too strong, she knew what had to be done. Her gaze softened as she continued, her voice tinged with sorrow. She used her magic to bind the heart to the reef itself, creating a powerful enchantment that would keep it safe from any who sought to misuse it. She poured all her remaining strength into the spell, knowing the consequences would be dire. Serena paused, her hand resting lightly on the stone wall as if to steady herself. The enchantment was powerful enough to shield the heart from the sorcerer's corruption, but in doing so, the queen tethered her very essence to the reef, becoming a part of it. She merged with the magic, her body fading into the very fabric of the coral and sea, her spirit trapped in an eternal slumber. Adrian stood in silence, his mind racing to comprehend the depth of the queen's sacrifice. He could see it now in the mural, the queen standing alone, her hands raised to the sky as the heart of the reef glowed brightly in her grasp. But the image was marred by the dark tendrils wrapping around her, pulling her into the reef, her form beginning to dissipate into the water, leaving only the faintest traces of her once immense power. She gave everything for her people, Adrian said quietly, his voice filled with reverence and sadness. Serena nodded, her face shadowed with grief. The queen's sacrifice saved the kingdom, but it came at a great cost. The enchantment she created bound her to the heart, and with it, the reef itself became a prison for her spirit. The once thriving city was reduced to ruins, and the heart of the reef, now hidden from all but the most determined, became a beacon of both life and loss. Her eyes closed for a moment, as if she could feel the weight of the queen's choice in the very waters around them. The reef became a place of both beauty and sorrow, a constant reminder of the price paid to protect it. There's more to this curse than just the queen's sacrifice, isn't there? Adrian asked, his voice gentle but insistent. He could sense there was something deeper that Serena had yet to reveal, something that tied her to this ancient tragedy. Serena took a deep breath, her gaze still locked on the mural. Yes, she said, her voice barely a whisper. The queen's magic didn't only protect the heart of the reef. It also trapped the souls of those who had been affected by the sorcerer's dark magic, including the sorcerer himself. The heart became a prison not only for the queen but for the very magic that had once created the kingdom's prosperity. The curse binds all who are part of this story, Serena continued, her tone heavy with understanding. The reef's beauty is also its prison. To break the curse, we must free the queen, the heart, and those souls who are trapped within the magic. Her gaze met Adrian's, filled with determination. That's why we're here, to face the consequences of the past and set things right. But the path won't be easy, and the magic that binds this place is as ancient as it is powerful. Every step we take brings us closer to the heart of the curse, and to breaking it. Serena turned slowly to face Adrian, her eyes filled with an almost tangible sorrow. The weight of her family's curse was heavy in her gaze, and the quiet reverence in her voice reflected the burden that had been passed down through generations. The queen's sacrifice didn't just bind her essence to the reef, she explained, her tone filled with a mixture of grief and regret. It also cursed her to become the reef's eternal guardian. She is trapped, unable to rest, her spirit bound to this place forever, watching over the magic and the heart she once protected with all her power. Her hand trembled slightly as she gestured toward the mural, where the queen's image was still fresh in Adrian's mind. Over time, the responsibility of guarding the reef was passed down to my ancestors, Serena continued, her voice soft but steady. The first of them willingly took on the role, honored to protect the reef and the heart. But as centuries passed, the weight of the curse grew heavier. The role of protector became less a calling and more a punishment. Each guardian could feel the queen's sorrow, her isolation, and the relentless toll it took on their spirit. Serena paused, her gaze drifting toward the bioluminescent fungi that illuminated the cavern's walls. The faint glow seemed to mirror the faint flicker of sadness in her eyes. "I am the latest in a long line of guardians," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "But unlike my ancestors, who might have accepted the curse as their fate, I've always struggled with it. I was born into this life, this duty, and though I've tried to embrace it, I can't shake the feeling that there's more to this story, more to the Queen's sacrifice that I've yet to understand." Adrian, feeling the weight of her words, stepped closer, his expression filled with compassion. He could see the toll this burden had taken on her, the quiet pain that lingered just beneath the surface of her strength. "But why you, Serena?" he asked, his voice gentle, almost a whisper. "Why did your family have to bear this curse? What is it about you that makes you the one chosen to carry it forward?" Serena's eyes met his, her expression hardening with the determination that had always driven her, even through the darkest of times. "I don't know why I was chosen. Perhaps it was fate. Perhaps it was the Queen's will. But one thing is certain, the curse isn't just a responsibility. It's a prison. I am bound to the reef, to its secrets, and to its pain. And now, I realize that the only way to break free is to uncover the truth behind it all, to find the heart, to free the Queen, and to end this cycle of suffering that has lasted for centuries." Her eyes softened then, a glimmer of hope breaking through the sorrow. "And maybe, just maybe, with your help, we can finally set things right." Adrian's heart ached as he processed the gravity of Serena's words. His gaze softened, taking in her pained expression, the silent weight of centuries of history etched into her features. He stepped closer, his voice gentle, but filled with an unspoken resolve. "So the curse you bear is a consequence of the Queen's sacrifice? And the reef's magic has been warped by the dark events of the past?" His mind swirled with the implications of her story. He had known the reef held ancient power, but the depth of its history, and the toll it had taken on Serena, was more than he had ever imagined. Serena nodded slowly, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "Yes," she said, her voice quiet but strong. "The Queen's sacrifice was both an act of love and one of unimaginable tragedy. The magic that once nurtured the reef, keeping it thriving and vibrant, was corrupted by the sorcerer's betrayal. The curse that binds the Queen's spirit to the reef isn't just a punishment for her, it's a curse that taints everything connected to it." Her eyes drifted to the mural again, where the Queen's image, surrounded by the swirling tendrils of dark magic, seemed almost alive. The reef's magic became twisted, lost its original balance. What was once a haven for the creatures of the sea turned into a place of peril and mystery. The weight of her words settled heavily in the air between them, and Adrian could feel the magnitude of the task ahead of them. He had known Serena carried the burden of a guardian, but the depth of her connection to the reef, and the price she paid, was far greater than he had imagined. "So all of this, the dark currents, the trials we've faced, it's a result of that broken magic?" Adrian asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "The reef has been trying to protect itself, but it's twisted, testing anyone who enters with dangers meant to guard secrets." Serena's eyes flickered with something between regret and understanding. "Yes. The trials are both a defense and a consequence of the curse. Each test is designed not just to challenge us, but to weed out those who are unworthy or unable to withstand the reef's magic. It's as if the reef itself has become a living thing, responding to the imbalance, trying to protect the heart and its secrets. But the reef is also a reflection of the Queen's pain, her isolation, and the burden she carried for so long. That's why the trial seems so merciless." Adrian could see the toll it had taken on Serena. He had seen her strength in the face of danger, her resilience in moments of uncertainty. But now he understood that her resolve wasn't just born from courage, it was born from a long, painful legacy. "Serena, all this time, you've carried this alone," Adrian said, his voice heavy with sympathy. "The weight of your family's curse, the pain of the reef's magic, you've shouldered it all without anyone truly understanding." Serena's gaze softened at his words, but there was a flicker of determination in her eyes. "I didn't choose this burden, Adrian. But it's mine to bear, just as it was my ancestors'." However, I know that the key to breaking the curse lies in uncovering the truth behind the Queen's sacrifice and the heart of the reef. And I cannot do this alone. With your help, I believe we can finally set things right, end the cycle, and free the reef from the darkness that has plagued it for centuries. Her voice steadied, filled with a quiet resolve. Together, we'll restore the balance and free me from this curse. Serena nodded solemnly, her gaze fixed on the mural of the Queen, her form surrounded by the dark magic that had once torn the kingdom apart. Yes, she said, her voice heavy with the weight of truth. The enchantments that protect the heart of the reef are also a prison for the Queen's spirit and a burden upon those who guard it. When the Queen sacrificed herself to bind the heart to the reef, she sealed herself within its very essence, ensuring that no one could ever steal the heart or use its power again. But in doing so, she also trapped her own soul in the reef's magic, bound to protect it for eternity. It was a noble sacrifice, but it came at a devastating cost. She turned to face Adrian, her eyes haunted by the memories of her ancestors' endless duty. The heart of the reef is a source of immense power, and it needs to be protected at all costs. But the magic that once nurtured the reef and all its creatures was tainted by the sorcerer's betrayal. The dark magic he unleashed upon the kingdom left a stain on the heart, warping the enchantments that were meant to protect it. Over time, this corruption spread, creating barriers, trials, and traps, forces meant to keep anyone from uncovering the heart's true nature or breaking the curse that binds the Queen's spirit. Adrian listened carefully, feeling a deep sense of empathy for Serena. The weight of her family's legacy, of being the latest in a long line of guardians, suddenly felt heavier. He understood now why the reef was so dangerous, why the trials seemed so relentless. The reef wasn't just a place of magical beauty, it was a place of sorrow, where the echoes of betrayal and sacrifice lingered, shaping everything that happened within its waters. So, the reef itself has become a prison, Adrian murmured, more to himself than to Serena. A place of testing, created by the very magic that was meant to protect it. Serena's eyes darkened as she nodded, the burden of her ancestors' role weighing heavily upon her. The trials, the barriers, the dark currents, they are all part of the reef's defense. They are designed to test anyone who dares to uncover the secrets hidden within, to challenge their determination and force them to prove their worth. The Queen's spirit, trapped in the heart of the reef, watches over these trials. She is both the protector and the prisoner, a figure bound by her own sacrifice. Her curse ensures that no one can gain access to the heart of the reef without passing through the trials. The magic forces those who seek its power to confront their greatest fears and prove their loyalty. Adrian's heart ached as he looked at Serena, understanding now the pain that lay behind her resolve. The Queen's sacrifice had been a noble act, but it had left a legacy of suffering for generations. Serena, as the latest guardian, was bound by the same fate, carrying the weight of that history and the expectations of those who had come before her. "And you've been carrying this burden alone all this time," he said softly, his voice full of compassion. "The reef's trials, the curse, it's all fallen on your shoulders." Serena met his gaze, a flicker of gratitude passing through her expression. "Yes," she said, her voice firm with the strength she had cultivated over the years. "But the time has come to break the cycle. The Queen's spirit deserves peace, and the heart of the reef deserves to be free from the darkness that corrupts it. I cannot do this alone, Adrian. But together, I believe we can uncover the truth, defeat the lingering evil, and finally set the Queen's spirit and the reef free." Her eyes shone with a newfound determination, as if the weight of centuries of guardianship had shifted, and the possibility of breaking the curse was no longer a distant hope, but a tangible reality. Adrian placed a comforting hand on Serena's shoulder, his touch gentle yet firm, as if to offer reassurance amidst the weight of her revelation. "It sounds like a heavy burden to carry," he said quietly, his voice full of understanding. The gravity of Serena's words settled in his chest, and he could feel the depth of the sacrifice that had shaped her family's legacy. But now, knowing all of this, we have a clearer understanding of what we're up against. This isn't just a mission to explore the reef, it's about restoring balance and freeing the Queen's spirit from the prison she's been bound to for centuries. Serena's gaze softened as she felt the warmth of Adrian's support. His words, simple yet profound, gave her a sense of hope that she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. She had always carried the burden of the reef's magic, but now, for the first time, she wasn't alone. "I've carried the weight of this curse for so long, always focused on protecting the heart and the secrets of the reef," Serena admitted, her voice soft but steady. "But in that, I forgot what it meant to truly seek a way out. I've been fighting the wrong battle, one of preservation, instead of a fight for freedom, for both the Queen's spirit and for the reef itself." Adrian nodded thoughtfully, squeezing her shoulder lightly as he stepped back, his mind racing with the new understanding of their quest. "Breaking the curse won't be easy," he said, his tone pragmatic. "The reef's magic is ancient and tied to the Queen's sacrifice. But now that we know its true nature, we can prepare ourselves for the trials ahead. The heart of the reef holds the key, but it's also the source of the corruption we need to heal." His eyes met Serena's with a renewed determination, a shared purpose solidifying between them. "We've faced challenges together before, and we will face this one as well." Serena took a deep breath, her expression hardening with renewed resolve. "Yes, the trials we've already encountered are only the beginning. There will be more obstacles, more dark magic to confront. The sorcerer's influence still lingers, and it will not be easy to undo the damage he caused. But now we understand why the reef tests those who seek its secrets. It's not just to protect the heart, it's to ensure that those who are worthy of it can pass through, untainted by greed or darkness. We will need to prove our worth in ways we've never imagined." Adrian's gaze never wavered, his commitment to their shared goal unwavering. "We have the strength to overcome what lies ahead, Serena. Together, we can undo the damage caused by that sorcerer's betrayal. We can heal the reef and set the Queen's spirit free, lifting the curse that's haunted this place for so long." His words were filled with the same conviction that burned in his heart, the certainty that their combined efforts could restore what had been lost and right the wrongs of the past. Serena looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude and determination. The bond between them had deepened in ways that neither had expected, but now it felt unbreakable. "You're right," she said, her voice steady and resolute. "We've come this far, and we won't stop now. The Queen's sacrifice will not be in vain. Together, we'll restore the heart of the reef and put an end to the darkness that has held this place captive for centuries." With renewed purpose, Serena took a step forward, her gaze fixed on the path that lay ahead, and Adrian was right beside her, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in the depths of the magical reef. Serena's eyes shone with a glimmer of hope, a light that had long been absent from her expression. The weight of the centuries-old curse, the responsibility she carried for the reef, seemed to lift ever so slightly. "That is our goal," she said, her voice gaining strength with each word. "The trials we face are not just tests of our strength and unity, but also steps toward healing the reef and freeing the Queen's spirit from its prison." The idea that their journey was more than just a series of obstacles, that it was a path toward restoring balance and peace, filled her with a renewed sense of purpose. Adrian stood silently beside her, the significance of her words settling deeply into his chest. He had always known their journey was fraught with danger, but he hadn't fully realized the emotional and spiritual depth of their quest. "So, it's not just about breaking the curse," he said, almost to himself. "We're restoring something lost, something that has been tainted by that sorcerer's betrayal." His mind raced with the implications of their mission. They weren't simply undoing an old wrong. They were helping to restore the heart of a kingdom that had been shattered, its magic twisted by dark forces. It was a task that required more than bravery. It demanded understanding, compassion, and unshakable resolve. Serena nodded, her gaze focused on the path ahead, but there was a softness to her expression now, an openness that had been absent before. "Yes, the heart of the reef holds the key to everything, the Queen's soul, the balance of the reef, and the future of the kingdom's magic. But unlocking it requires more than just brute strength. We must prove that we understand its true power, and that we are worthy of it. Only then can we free the Queen and restore harmony to the waters." Her voice had softened, tinged with the weight of the responsibility she had carried for so long, and now shared with Adrian. Adrian looked at her with deep understanding, his heart swelling with empathy for the burden she had borne alone. And the prophecy? How does that fit into all of this? His curiosity had grown since Serena had first mentioned it, and he knew it was essential to their success. If the prophecy was guiding them, it could be the key to unlocking the path forward. He looked to Serena, awaiting her answer, knowing that understanding the prophecy might reveal even more about the trials they would face. Serena took a deep breath, her expression shifting as she recalled the ancient words that had been passed down through her family. The prophecy speaks of two souls bound by fate, destined to heal the reef and break the curse that has plagued it for centuries. It says that only through unity and understanding can the true power of the heart be unlocked. Her voice grew softer, as if she was remembering the weight of her ancestors' legacy. I always thought the prophecy referred to someone else, someone destined to help me, but now I see that it is you, Adrian. You and I are the ones who must face the trials and overcome the darkness together. Adrian's chest tightened with a mix of awe and responsibility. He had come to the reef seeking answers, never imagining that he would become an integral part of this ancient tale. I never imagined that I would be the one to help you carry this burden, but now I understand. He looked into Serena's eyes, the depth of their shared purpose clear between them. We've already faced so much, and we've come through it stronger. Together, we can face the challenges ahead. We can restore the heart of the reef and set the Queen's spirit free. His words were firm with conviction, and Serena, for the first time in years, allowed herself to believe that it was possible. With renewed determination, they turned their gaze toward the depths ahead, ready to face whatever trials the reef would throw at them, united in their mission to heal and restore. As they stood together in the cavern, the ancient murals around them seemed to pulse with a renewed sense of life. The once still images of underwater cities, swirling currents, and mystical creatures now seemed to hold a deeper, more urgent meaning. The stories depicted on the walls were no longer just history. They were part of the living tapestry that surrounded them, reflecting the struggles, sacrifices, and triumphs that had shaped the reef's past. With every glance, Adrian and Serena saw more than just the beautiful artistry. Each detail carried the weight of the reef's long-forgotten secrets, and its ongoing battle against the darkness that had tainted it. For Serena, the weight of the reef's history now felt more tangible than ever. Her connection to the murals, to the kingdom's rise and fall, had always been abstract, but now it was personal. The burden of her ancestors' legacy, the curse that had bound her to this place for so long, was no longer a solitary struggle. She shared it with Adrian, whose unwavering support had shifted her perspective on the journey. As she looked at the murals, her heart swelled with a mixture of sorrow and hope. Sorrow for the Queen's sacrifice, for the kingdom lost to time, and hope that they could change the tide and heal what had been broken. She wasn't alone anymore, and that knowledge made all the difference. Adrian, too, felt the gravity of the moment as they stood surrounded by the walls that had witnessed centuries of history. The revelation of Serena's burden and the true nature of the reef's magic had transformed their mission. What had started as a quest to break a curse now felt like a shared responsibility to restore balance to a world that had been left in chaos. Adrian's mind raced with the understanding that they were not merely adventurers seeking treasure or answers. They were the key to mending something far greater than themselves. The ancient magic of the reef, the sacrifices of its guardians, and the broken promise of peace now intertwined with their own fates. The path ahead, though clearer in purpose, remained daunting. The trials they had already faced were just the beginning, and the challenges yet to come seemed insurmountable. Serena's voice echoed in his mind, reminding him of the prophecy that had set them on this journey. It spoke of unity and strength, and Adrian now understood just how critical their partnership would be. Every step they took would test not only their physical abilities but their emotional resilience, their bond forged in the crucible of adversity. He couldn't help but feel a deep sense of foreboding as they prepared to venture deeper into the reef, knowing that the dangers lurking within were far more complex than he had ever imagined. Yet, despite the uncertainty and looming dangers, Adrian's resolve solidified. He had come to care for Serena, not just as a companion on this journey, but as someone whose strength and heart had earned his deepest respect. The trials ahead would be difficult, but he believed in their ability to overcome them together. There was a purpose now that transcended the need for survival or success. It was a deeper calling to restore what had been broken and free the Queen's spirit from its eternal prison. It was a mission that bound them together, one that required not just physical might, but trust, compassion, and unity. With every passing moment, their connection grew stronger, as did their understanding of the task at hand. Serena turned to Adrian, her eyes reflecting the weight of their shared responsibility. "We've uncovered the truth," she said softly, her voice filled with a mix of determination and quiet resolve. "We know what we must do. The reef's fate is in our hands now, and together, we'll restore it to what it once was." Her words, though simple, carried the weight of centuries of lost hope, now rekindled by their shared determination. Serena had never felt more certain of their cause, and as she looked at Adrian, she realized that, with him by her side, the curse could be broken, the reef could heal, and the Queen's spirit could be free. As they turned away from the murals and continued deeper into the cavern, the sense of purpose between them solidified. The path ahead was fraught with danger, yes, but now they were not just facing the unknown, they were confronting it together. The trials would test their strength, their unity, and their hearts, but the truth they had uncovered and the bond they shared made them stronger than ever. The ancient stories on the cavern walls were no longer just memories. They were a guide, a reminder that they were part of something much greater than themselves. The reef's magic, its secrets, and its future lay ahead, and together, Adrian and Serena would face whatever came next with unwavering resolve. With the weight of their newfound understanding pressing heavily on their hearts, Adrian and Serena stood at the edge of the cavern, a renewed sense of determination filling their every step. The truth they had uncovered about the reef's curse and the sacrifices that had been made over centuries now served as both their guide and their burden. Serena's words, spoken with quiet strength, echoed in Adrian's mind, reminding him that they were not just adventurers seeking answers. They were the key to undoing the ancient wrongs that had bound the reef in darkness for so long. The journey ahead would not be easy, but their shared resolve gave them the courage to face whatever trials awaited. Serena stood tall, her gaze unwavering as she surveyed the path before them. She could feel the weight of her ancestors' legacy upon her shoulders, the burden of the curse that had been passed down through the generations. Yet, for the first time in years, there was a flicker of hope in her heart. With Adrian by her side, she no longer felt like the lone protector of the reef, cursed to bear the burden alone. Together, they had unlocked the first layer of the mystery surrounding the heart of the reef, and now, they were ready to delve deeper into its heart, to confront the dark magic that had left such a lasting scar upon its waters. The prophecy that had guided them now seemed clearer, its meaning unfolding with each step they took. Adrian, ever watchful, kept his focus on the path ahead, his mind still processing the magnitude of their task. What had started as a quest to break a simple curse had transformed into something far greater. The Queen's sacrifice, the sorcerer's betrayal, and the curse that had haunted Serena's bloodline now intertwined with their own fates. He couldn't help but think of the Queen's image in the murals, her outstretched arms, surrounded by a swirling aura of magic. It was clear now that they weren't merely seeking to free Serena from her curse. They were attempting to heal the reef, to restore balance to a world that had been ravaged by greed and betrayal. The weight of this mission pressed on him, but it also filled him with a fierce sense of purpose. They had no choice but to succeed. The air around them seemed to thrum with the magic of the reef as they ventured deeper into its heart. Serena could feel the pulse of the enchantments as they passed, each trial they faced pressing them closer to the truth of the heart of the reef and the power that lay dormant within its depths. There was a dark undercurrent to the magic here, a lingering stain left by the sorcerer's curse that had twisted the natural flow of power. But Serena felt a spark of resistance within herself, an inner strength that had grown in the wake of their shared journey. The bond she had forged with Adrian, the trust they had built in one another, was now their greatest weapon. It was this unity that would see them through, that would allow them to face the reef's darkest corners and uncover the truth hidden beneath the surface. They moved forward, their steps in sync, their shared resolve the only light in the oppressive darkness. Each trial would bring new challenges, But with every obstacle they overcame, they felt themselves growing stronger. They were no longer just two people thrown together by fate. They were allies, bound by a common purpose, and their strength was in their unity. As they approached the next challenge, their connection to the reef and its magic deepened. Adrian could feel the weight of the ancient enchantments pressing in on them, but he knew that together, they could overcome whatever lay ahead. The curse that had held the reef in its grip for so long would be broken, and peace would be restored, not just for Serena, but for the Queen's spirit, the reef's inhabitants, and the magic that had once been a force for good. Serena's heart swelled with a renewed sense of hope as they continued on their journey. There was still much to be done, and the trials ahead would test their every limit, but they were ready. The darkness that had once seemed insurmountable was now something they could face together, and with each step, they came closer to redemption. The ancient guardian and the reef she had been bound to protect would find peace, and with it, the magic that had been twisted by the sorcerer's betrayal would be healed. Serena was no longer just the guardian of the reef, she was its savior, alongside Adrian, her trusted companion. Together, they would restore the balance that had been lost and free the Queen's spirit from the prison she had been trapped in for so long. Chapter 15: Adrian's Mission. The soft glow of the cavern's bioluminescent fungi bathed the chamber in a serene light, yet a heavy silence lingered between Adrian and Serena as they sat in quiet reflection. The weight of Serena's revelations pressed down on them, the ancient history of the reef now intertwined with their own fates. The murals, with their vivid depictions of betrayal, sacrifice, and the ancient kingdom's fall, had deepened their understanding of the curse and the trials ahead. The Queen's selfless act and the sorcerer's dark magic still loomed over them, but Serena's newfound resolve gave Adrian a sense of clarity, as though the path ahead, though fraught with danger, was not impossible. The flickering shadows cast by the glow seemed to mirror the uncertainty they both felt, but also the quiet strength that had begun to form between them. With a deep breath, Adrian shifted, breaking the silence. He met Serena's gaze, his expression somber yet determined. It was time for him to reveal the story that had brought him to the reef. He spoke of his past, of the distant land he had left behind, and the personal quest that had led him to seek out the heart of the reef. His voice was steady, though a flicker of pain crossed his features as he spoke of the loss that had shaped him. The tale of a kingdom lost to time, of a family's legacy corrupted by greed, and of his quest to reclaim what was stolen from his ancestors now felt intrinsically linked to Serena's mission. They were no longer two separate quests but one intertwined journey to restore balance to the world. As Adrian finished his tale, there was a quiet understanding between them. The reef's curse, the heart of the reef, and the trials they faced were no longer abstract challenges. They were personal. Serena had been carrying the weight of her bloodline's legacy, and now Adrian had shared his own burdens. It was clear to both of them that their paths had converged for a reason. The trials they would face were not just tests of strength and magic, but of character and perseverance. Their alliance had grown deeper through this exchange, and with their shared understanding, they were more determined than ever to continue forward. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, not just as companions, but as two souls bound by a common purpose, to heal the reef, break the curse, and restore the balance that had been lost so long ago. As they nestled on a smooth rock ledge, the ambient glow of the cavern surrounding them, Adrian let out a slow, steady breath. The stillness of the moment seemed to amplify the gravity of their situation, the weight of their shared mission pressing upon him. He had been silent for a while, processing everything they had learned from the murals in Serena's story. The trials ahead were daunting, and the truth of the reef's curse had become undeniable. But now, with Serena by his side, it was time to reveal the full extent of his own journey, the quest that had brought him to this ancient, mysterious place. His eyes flickered toward Serena, whose focused expression made it clear she was awaiting his words. Adrian's voice was steady as he began to share his story, recounting the events that had set him on this path. He spoke of a distant kingdom once rich with knowledge and power, a kingdom that had fallen prey to greed and betrayal. The Empire's treasure, an artifact of immense power, had been stolen by those who sought to use its magic for their own ends. That theft, that loss, had set in motion Adrian's pursuit of the heart of the reef, believing that it was the key to restoring what had been taken from his ancestors. His words were measured, but there was an unmistakable edge of resolve in his tone. The pain of loss was still fresh, but it no longer consumed him. His mission was no longer solely about revenge or reclaiming what had been stolen. It was about healing the wounds of the past, both his and the reef's. As he finished speaking, Adrian paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle in the air between them. Serena's gaze had softened, her earlier resolve now tempered with a deeper understanding of his purpose. She had listened closely, her silence an acknowledgement of the pain he had carried alone for so long. In that moment, the space between them seemed to shrink, their shared burdens weaving an unspoken bond. The significance of their journey was clearer now. It was no longer just about the trials or the curse. It was about redemption. Adrian's mission was now intertwined with Serena's quest to break the curse of the reef. Together, they stood united, their individual paths converging toward a shared goal, to restore what had been lost and heal the ancient wounds that bound them both to this place. Serena, Adrian began, his voice calm but firm, as he turned to face her. I think it's important that you know why I'm here and what my mission involves. Understanding my quest might help us see how our goals are intertwined. The words hung in the air between them, the cavern's soft glow casting long shadows over his face. Serena, who had been quietly observing him, gave a small nod, her eyes urging him to continue. Adrian took a deep breath, gathering the strength to reveal the story he had kept hidden for so long. The weight of their shared journey, the trials ahead, and the connection between their missions now felt heavier than ever, but he knew this was the moment to share the truth. With a steady gaze, Adrian began recounting the story that had led him here, to this ancient, cursed reef. His voice was filled with quiet determination as he spoke of the kingdom he once called home, a place known for its wisdom and power, a place that had been torn apart by betrayal and greed. An artifact, the heart of the reef, had been stolen long ago by those seeking to misuse its magic for their own purposes. This theft, this catastrophic event, had set in motion Adrian's quest for vengeance, as well as a desperate desire to restore balance to his people's lost legacy. He explained how, after years of searching, he had come to believe that the heart of the reef might be the key to restoring both his kingdom's lost power and his family's honor. As he finished his story, Adrian's gaze softened, and he gave a quiet sigh, the burden of his past momentarily lifting. Serena had listened intently, her expression a mixture of empathy and understanding. She hadn't interrupted, allowing him the space to speak freely. The shared silence between them felt different now, as if the distance between them had closed, both physically and emotionally. Serena's eyes met his, and in that moment, the true weight of their journey became clear. Their goals were no longer separate, and their fates were bound together in ways neither had fully realized until now. With a quiet, shared resolve, they both understood that the path ahead, fraught with peril as it was, would be walked side by side. Serena nodded, her expression attentive, her eyes steady and encouraging as she gestured for Adrian to continue. There was a quiet intensity in her gaze, one that seemed to say she was ready to hear whatever he had to say, no matter how difficult or complicated it might be. Her fingers lightly rested on the rock beside her, her posture open yet calm, giving him the space he needed to share his truth. Adrian felt the weight of her understanding, as if her silent support had already woven a connection between them that allowed him to be vulnerable in a way he hadn't been with anyone in years. As Adrian hesitated for a moment, gathering his thoughts, the air between them seemed to hold its breath, the cavern's ambient glow flickering softly in the distance. Serena's patient silence pushed him forward, urging him to unearth the parts of his journey that had remained buried for so long. Finally, he spoke again, his voice tinged with a mix of regret and resolve. My kingdom, the place I once called home, is gone now, destroyed by its own greed. The heart of the reef, an artifact of immense power, was stolen by those who wished to control its magic. I was born into that world, into a family that once held power and influence, and I watched as it all fell apart when that artifact was taken. Adrian's words grew more somber as he shared the details of his quest, his pursuit of vengeance against the thieves who had shattered his home. I came to the reef because I believed that if I could find the heart of the reef, I could restore my family's legacy and reclaim what was lost. He confessed, his voice growing steadier with each word. Serena's presence beside him was a silent anchor, giving him the strength to continue. I know now that there is more to the heart's magic than I originally understood, and I can't do this alone. The curse that binds the queen here and the magic of the reef are all connected, and if we are to restore balance, I need your help. Adrian's gaze drifted across the cavern, his eyes momentarily lost in the soft glow of the enchanted crystals that illuminated the space. The shimmering light reflected in his eyes, casting an almost ethereal quality to his features. He seemed distant for a moment, as though lost in thought, before his voice broke the silence, steady and full of purpose. My ship, the Crimson Tempest, and I have been on a long journey in search of a legendary treasure. This treasure has consumed me for years. It's been the driving force behind every decision, every battle fought, every port left behind. I've dedicated my life to uncovering it, believing that it holds the key to a power unlike anything the world has ever known. He took a breath, his fingers brushing the rough stone of the ledge they sat on, grounding himself in the present moment. The treasure isn't just a collection of riches. It's a series of ancient artifacts, each with its own unique power. These relics are said to hold the secrets of a forgotten civilization, a people who wielded magic on a scale that has never been seen again. There are rumors that these artifacts are scattered across the seas, hidden in places that are nearly impossible to reach, and I've spent years following leads, battling storms, and navigating dangerous waters to piece together their locations. Adrian's voice grew softer as he continued, his expression turning more serious. But the closer I get, the more I realize that the treasure isn't just something I can claim for myself. The power it holds, the magic it can unlock, it's tied to forces I don't fully understand. That's why I've come to the reef. I believe the heart of the reef is one of those artifacts, and if I can unlock its secrets, I might not just restore my family's honor, but uncover something far greater, something that could change everything. Adrian's voice faltered for a moment, as he allowed the weight of his words to settle between them. The cavern seemed to grow quieter, as if the very stones were listening. He glanced at Serena, his eyes reflecting the weight of years spent chasing shadows. The treasure, he continued, his tone heavier now, is believed to be hidden somewhere in these waters. My father was obsessed with finding it before he passed. It consumed him. He dedicated his life to searching for clues, drawing up maps, and chasing every lead, but in the end, the treasure eluded him. He left behind nothing but unfinished notes and half-finished puzzles, all pointing to this reef as a possible location. He took a deep breath, steadying himself as memories of his father flooded his mind. I took up his quest after he died, hoping to honor his memory and finish what he started. It became my obsession too. Every shipwreck I encountered, every storm I weathered, it was all in pursuit of the same goal. I wanted to find the treasure, not just for the power it could bring, but for him. To give his life the meaning he never found and to fulfill the promise he made to himself before it was too late. Adrian's gaze darkened as he paused, his hands clenched at his sides, the weight of his confession still heavy in the air. Now, here I am, standing in the heart of the reef, following the path he believed would lead us to the treasure. But I'm starting to wonder if it's not just about the treasure anymore. There's something more to this place, something tied to my father's obsession, and I can't shake the feeling that it's all connected. His fate, the magic of the reef, and what we're trying to accomplish together. Serena's eyes remained fixed on Adrian, her expression a mix of curiosity and contemplation. She had absorbed the weight of his words, and now, the question that had been silently building in her mind finally slipped from her lips. And how does this treasure relate to our current mission? Her voice was calm, but there was an edge of urgency beneath it. The layers of mystery surrounding the reef, combined with the prophecy they were following, had already woven an intricate web, and now Adrian's story seemed to add a deeper level of complexity to their already perilous journey. Adrian shifted slightly, his gaze flickering as he considered her question. He hadn't fully allowed himself to think of the treasure in terms of their shared mission, but now that the question was out there, the connections began to form. "The heart of the reef, the source of the kingdom's magic," he said slowly. "It's believed to be one of the artifacts tied to the treasure my father was seeking. He believed that the reef, and the magic it holds, was central to unlocking the final piece of the puzzle. It wasn't just the wealth or power that drove him, it was the knowledge, the ancient magic hidden beneath the surface." He turned to Serena, his voice quieter now, tinged with the weight of everything that had led him to this point. "As we uncover the secrets of the reef and face its trials, I realize that finding this treasure, or whatever remains of it, could be crucial not only for us, but for breaking the curse that haunts you. The artifact my father sought, if it's truly here, might be tied to the very magic that binds your spirit and the reef itself. Our paths may have crossed for reasons greater than we imagined." Adrian's eyes grew distant as he continued, his voice tinged with a mix of reverence and determination. "According to the legends," he said slowly, "the treasure is not just material wealth. It's said to be linked to ancient magic that can influence the balance of power in the world." He paused for a moment, collecting his thoughts, the weight of his father's obsession settling in. "My father was convinced that finding it would unlock secrets that could change the course of history. He believed that whoever controlled the treasure would have the ability to shape the future of kingdoms, even alter the fabric of reality itself. It was more than just the promise of riches, it was the power to reshape the very world as we know it." Serena listened intently, the enormity of Adrian's words sinking in. The idea of such power, hidden in the depths of the reef, was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The magical forces at play in the reef already held so much potential for both creation and destruction. Now, with the treasure's mysterious connection to the balance of power, Serena realized that the stakes of their mission were even higher than she had initially thought. "If what you're saying is true," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, "then finding this treasure could be the key to restoring the reef, and the curse that binds me to it." Adrian nodded solemnly, his gaze unwavering. "That's what I believe. My father's notes suggested that the treasure, combined with the heart of the reef, might hold the power to heal the land and break the curses tied to it. If we can find the treasure and unlock its magic, we may be able to put an end to the darkness that has plagued this place for centuries, once and for all." His words carried a sense of finality, as though the weight of his father's legacy, combined with the knowledge of the reef's magic, had set him on a path that could not be undone. "But we need to uncover the rest of the secrets first. Only then can we truly understand the full extent of what we're facing." Adrian's gaze softened as he turned to Serena, his expression earnest and filled with a mix of resolve and uncertainty. "When I arrived here and encountered the reef's enchantments," he began, his voice steady, "I realized that the treasure might be more than just a prize. It could be something far more significant. The more I learned about the heart of the reef and the curse that binds you, the more I understood how interconnected everything is." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "If the legends are true, then the treasure is not just a collection of artifacts, it's a part of a much larger puzzle. It might be linked to the heart itself, and more importantly, it might hold the key to breaking the curse that has bound you for so long." Serena listened closely, her heart pounding as Adrian's words sunk in. The possibility that the treasure could be more than just a means to power was both a glimmer of hope and a heavy burden. The idea that it could break the curse that had tormented her ancestors, and her, was almost too much to grasp. She had carried the weight of the curse for so long, it was hard to imagine a world where it didn't define her every move. "You think the treasure could truly set me free?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The hope she had buried deep within her stirred at the thought, but it was tempered by years of struggle and disappointment. Adrian met her gaze, his eyes filled with determination. "I do," he said firmly. "The more I learn about the magic of the reef and its history, the more it seems that the heart and the treasure are connected in ways we don't fully understand yet. But I believe that if we can find it, and unlock its magic, there's a chance we can lift the curse and restore the balance that's been lost." His words were filled with conviction, and though the path ahead was uncertain, he knew that together they could face whatever trials awaited them. This mission was never just about treasure. It's about finding a way to undo the damage that's been done to this place, and to you. Serena's eyes widened as the weight of Adrian's words settled over her. The possibility that the treasure could be more than just a prize, that it could hold the power to undo the darkness surrounding the reef, sent a rush of emotions through her. She had spent so long living with the curse, bound to the reef by the Queen's sacrifice and the lingering shadows of betrayal, that the idea of freedom felt like a distant dream. Yet Adrian's belief in the treasure's power gave her a flicker of hope she hadn't dared to entertain in years. "So you believe that finding this treasure could help lift the darkness that has tainted the reef?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if testing the idea in her mind. Adrian nodded, his gaze unwavering as he met her eyes. "I do. The treasure is said to be imbued with ancient magic that could restore the balance the reef once had. If it truly is connected to the heart of the reef, it may hold the power to break the curse and heal what has been broken." His voice grew firmer, filled with a quiet intensity. "The legends speak of a time when the reef was a place of harmony, a place where magic flourished in balance with the sea. If we can find the treasure, we may be able to restore that balance and undo the damage that's been done." Serena felt a wave of conflicting emotions wash over her. On one hand, the idea of finally being free from the curse was almost too good to be true. On the other hand, she knew how fragile hope could be. Still, Adrian's conviction was infectious, and for the first time in a long while, Serena allowed herself to imagine what it might be like to no longer be a prisoner to the reef's magic. "If what you say is true," she said, her voice stronger now, "then we have a real chance to set things right, not just for me, but for the reef, for the Queen, and for all those who have suffered because of the curse." The path ahead was uncertain, but with Adrian by her side and the possibility of breaking the curse on the horizon, Serena felt a renewed sense of purpose. Adrian nodded, the weight of the realization settling into his chest. "Yes. My quest for treasure and your mission to break the curse may be intertwined," he said, his voice steady with newfound clarity. "The treasure isn't just about wealth or fame, it's about something far greater. The artifacts we seek might hold the power to heal the reef and free you from your curse. If the legends are true, the very magic we're searching for could be the key to restoring balance and undoing the damage that has lingered for centuries. Our goals are connected in ways we hadn't fully understood before, but now it seems more clear than ever." Serena's heart quickened as she absorbed his words. The idea that their journeys were not just parallel, but actually intertwined, felt like the first piece of a puzzle finally falling into place. She had always carried the burden of the curse alone, but the possibility of sharing this burden, of working with Adrian toward a common goal, gave her hope in a way she hadn't expected. "So, you believe that the treasure could be the answer to both our quests?" she asked, her voice soft but filled with a spark of renewed determination. Adrian met her gaze, his eyes full of resolve. "I do. The artifacts we're after are more than just relics of the past. They are keys to unlocking the magic that has held the reef captive for so long. If we find them, we may be able to break the curse that binds you and restore the heart of the reef. It's a chance for both of us to accomplish what we set out to do, but more importantly, it's a chance to end the darkness that has lingered for generations." He paused, his tone growing quieter. "Together, we can do this. Our paths may have seemed separate until now, but I believe they were always meant to converge." Serena's thoughts whirled as she processed the connection between their missions, the weight of the revelation settling heavily on her shoulders. The idea that their paths were not only intertwined but that the very treasure Adrian sought could also provide the key to breaking her curse was both daunting and hopeful. She knew that the reef's magic had long been a source of pain and confusion, but if this treasure could truly restore balance, then it was worth pursuing. "If our missions are linked, then we must approach both with equal determination," she said, her voice steady, yet filled with a renewed sense of purpose. "The treasure could indeed hold the answers we need, not just for my curse, but for everything we fought for." Adrian nodded, his expression reflecting the same resolve. He had come to the reef seeking a long-lost treasure, but now, the stakes were far greater. It wasn't just about reclaiming artifacts or uncovering hidden powers. It It was about restoring harmony to the very heart of the magical world that had shaped their fates. The sense of urgency had shifted from personal gain to something more profound. Exactly, he agreed, his voice firm. We can't afford to falter now. Every step we take, every trial we face, will bring us closer to the answers we need, but we must remain steadfast. Together, we have a chance to rewrite history. Serena met his gaze, the weight of her responsibility blending with a newfound hope. The trials ahead would be arduous, and the path fraught with uncertainty. But for the first time in a long while, she felt as though they had a true purpose. Then we move forward together, she declared, her voice unwavering. We face whatever lies ahead, not just for the treasure, but for the reef, for the Queen's spirit, and for all the lives bound by its curse. She could feel the magic of the reef pressing against her, urging her onward, and with Adrian by her side, she felt a renewed sense of strength she hadn't known in years. Adrian's expression hardened with a newfound determination as he looked at Serena, the weight of their shared purpose settling between them. Exactly, he said, his voice steady and filled with resolve. Our journey is not just about finding the treasure, but understanding its true significance. It's about uncovering how its power can help us achieve our goals, not just for us, but for the reef itself. His words were laced with the understanding that their quest was far more complex than they had initially realized. The treasure, once thought to be a mere prize, was now a key to restoring balance and healing ancient wounds. Serena nodded, her gaze steady and unwavering as she absorbed the depth of his conviction. They had always known that the reef held secrets, but now it felt like they were on the cusp of unlocking something much bigger. We've only just begun to scratch the surface, she murmured, her mind racing with the possibilities. Each new trial we face, each hidden detail we uncover, will bring us closer to understanding how to break the curse and restore the heart of the reef. There's more at stake now than ever before. The urgency of their quest felt sharper, more pressing. Adrian met her gaze, his voice quiet but filled with a resolute intensity. We need to continue exploring the reef, uncovering its secrets, and facing the trials that lie ahead. Every step brings us closer to what we need to do. There's no turning back now. He could feel the weight of their shared mission, and while the path was uncertain, the bond between them had only grown stronger. Together, they would confront whatever challenges awaited them, knowing that each trial brought them one step closer to freeing the reef, and themselves, from the darkness that had held it captive for centuries. As Adrian and Serena exchanged their stories and insights, a sense of camaraderie began to form between them. The weight of their separate burdens, once isolated, now seemed lighter when shared. Their voices, once carrying the tones of their own journeys, now wove together into a narrative of unity. The room, illuminated by the soft glow of the bioluminescent fungi, felt charged with the energy of their shared purpose. With each revelation, their understanding deepened, and their connection grew, the realization that they were no longer alone in their struggles becoming a powerful force in itself. Their quest, which had once seemed so distinct, had now intertwined into a singular, more meaningful mission. What began as personal pursuits, Adrian's search for a legendary treasure and Serena's burden of the curse, was now a unified cause, one that held the potential to heal the very land they stood on. The realization that they were working together towards something greater than themselves infused them both with a renewed sense of purpose. Their goals, although different in nature, had found common ground, and it was clear that their fates were irrevocably linked. With their paths now aligned, Adrian and Serena understood the profound responsibility that lay before them. They were no longer just two individuals fighting separate battles, but rather partners united by the reef's magic and the shared desire to restore balance. The trials ahead would test their strength, their unity, and their resolve, but they faced them with the knowledge that together, they had the power to bring about change. The bond they had forged was the key to unlocking the secrets of the reef, and to breaking the curse that had held it in darkness for so long. With a newfound sense of purpose, Adrian and Serena stood at the threshold of their next steps, ready to face the trials ahead. What had begun as a solitary pursuit for each of them had transformed into a unified mission, one that held the potential to reshape the fate of the reef and its mysterious magic. Their bond, forged through shared revelations and mutual understanding, gave them strength in the face of uncertainty. Every challenge that awaited them now seemed less daunting, for they faced it not as two individuals, but as partners bound by a common goal. Their journey was no longer driven solely by personal ambition. The weight of Serena's curse and Adrian's quest for treasure had fused into a single purpose: to restore balance to the magical reef and uncover its hidden secrets. The reef's dark past and the Queen's lingering curse had become not just a burden, but a riddle to be solved. The treasure they sought was no longer just a means of wealth or power, but a potential key to breaking the curse and freeing Serena from her eternal duty. Together, they would delve deeper into the mysteries of the ancient waters, knowing that each step brought them closer to their ultimate goal. As they prepared to venture further into the heart of the reef, the path before them was clear, though fraught with danger and unknown perils. The trials they would face were no longer obstacles to be feared, but steps in the journey toward a greater purpose. With their destinies intertwined, Adrian and Serena knew that the success of their quest would depend not only on their individual strengths, but on the unity and trust they had built. They were no longer simply seeking treasure, they were striving to heal the reef, break the curse, and restore balance to a world that had long been tainted by darkness. Together, they would navigate the uncharted waters, knowing that their shared journey was the key to unlocking the future. Chapter 16: Shared Goals. The cavern's soft, ethereal glow cast gentle shadows over the two travelers as they sat side by side, the quiet murmur of the reef's magic echoing around them. In the silence, the magnitude of their shared journey began to sink in, deepening the bond between them. What had started as two separate quests, each fueled by personal desires and burdens, had now converged into a singular mission. The weight of their respective goals, the curse Serena carried and the treasure Adrian sought, was no longer an individual burden to bear but a shared responsibility. This understanding shifted the dynamic between them, transforming their connection from one of mere alliance to one of partnership and mutual respect. As they exchanged thoughts and insights, their words revealed the depth of their realization. Their destinies were no longer distant or disconnected. They were intertwined, each challenge they faced now an opportunity to move forward together. The treasure Adrian sought, once an elusive prize, now held the promise of healing, not just for his own past, but for Serena's curse and the reef's troubled history. Serena, too, began to see the treasure not as an artifact of power but as a vital part of her own freedom, a way to lift the darkness that bound her to the reef. In this moment, they both understood that their paths were aligned in a way neither had anticipated. The newfound camaraderie between them became the foundation for their next steps. They were no longer just two individuals with separate missions. They were allies, bound by a common cause. Each glance and each shared word seemed to reinforce the unspoken trust that had formed between them. There was no longer any doubt about the importance of their unity, and in each other, they found the strength to face the challenges ahead. The weight of the past was still heavy, but it was lighter now, shared between them. Together, they could face the trials of the reef, not just as adventurers, but as two souls who understood the significance of the journey they were on. The cavern's dim light seemed to reflect the quiet certainty that now filled their hearts. Their goals were no longer fragmented but fused into a singular vision for the future. They were ready to face the unknown, knowing that they had something stronger than their individual quests: each other. The trials of the reef, the darkness of Serena's curse, and the treasure that eluded Adrian were no longer insurmountable. With their paths intertwined, the challenges ahead became less daunting. The bond they had formed in this quiet moment would be the strength they carried into the depths of the reef, ready to unlock its secrets and restore what had been lost. Adrian leaned back slightly, his eyes tracing the dim outlines of the cavern walls as he absorbed the weight of Serena's words. The magnitude of their shared journey felt more profound now, as if the very air around them had shifted to accommodate their newfound understanding. "It's incredible how our quests are so closely linked," he said slowly, his voice rich with both awe and determination. The realization that their goals weren't merely parallel but deeply intertwined seemed to ground him, giving his mission a greater sense of purpose. This wasn't just about treasure anymore or a way to break a curse. It was about restoring balance to a place that had been ravaged by time and dark magic, and the two of them had a chance to make it right. His thoughts drifted to the treasure, once a singular pursuit to honor his father's memory, now transformed into something much greater. The artifacts he sought were no longer just relics of power, but possibly keys to breaking the curse that bound Serena. Adrian's mind raced with the implications. If the treasure could indeed help lift the darkness haunting the reef, then his father's quest had a deeper meaning than he had ever anticipated. Breaking the curse and finding the treasure, these goals are not just parallel. Adrian continued, his gaze locking with Serena's. They're intertwined. We're not just trying to achieve separate ends. Everything we do here impacts both of us. Serena's presence beside him felt even more vital now. She wasn't just an ally or a guardian. She was the living thread that connected his journey with the reef's fate. Her curse was not just a tragedy to be resolved, but a catalyst that linked their destinies. The stakes were higher than either of them had realized. If they succeeded, they would not only free Serena from her eternal prison but also restore the balance to the reef, healing both the land and their hearts in the process. Adrian felt a surge of responsibility in his chest as he looked at her, knowing the weight of their combined mission could be the very thing that kept them moving forward, no matter the challenges ahead. Adrian's voice grew stronger as he continued, the fire of determination now clearly evident in his words. We're in this together, Serena. The treasure and the curse, they're not separate anymore. The same dark magic that twisted the reef is the force we have to face if we're going to succeed. But together, we have a chance. The bond between them felt more solid now, a shared commitment that transcended the personal stakes of their individual quests. With each passing moment, Adrian felt more certain of the path they were walking, two travelers bound by fate, ready to face the challenges of the magical reef and unlock its deepest secrets. Serena nodded, her expression turning contemplative as her gaze swept over the softly glowing walls of the cavern. The ancient murals, with their depictions of the reef's once thriving kingdom, seemed to echo the weight of her words. Yes, she said thoughtfully, her voice quiet but firm. It seems that our paths were meant to converge. The treasure could be the key to breaking the curse, and resolving the curse could reveal the true nature of the treasure. Her tone carried a deep certainty, as though the pieces of a long unfolding puzzle were finally falling into place. She glanced at Adrian, her eyes reflecting both hope and determination. The intertwining of their quests felt almost fated, a realization that gave Serena a renewed sense of purpose. For years, she had shouldered the burden of the curse alone, convinced that it was her solitary duty as the reef's guardian. But now, with Adrian at her side, the weight of that responsibility seemed lighter. His presence, and his mission, offered something she had not dared to hope for. A partnership in a journey that could rewrite the reef's history. If the treasure holds the answers we seek, she continued, her voice steady despite the emotion stirring within her, then its purpose must go beyond wealth or power. It may be the key to healing the damage caused by the sorcerer's betrayal and restoring the balance the reef once knew. Adrian nodded, his expression mirroring Serena's resolve. The connection between the curse and the treasure now felt undeniable, as though their individual quests were threads woven into the same intricate tapestry. He could see how their successes and failures were intertwined, each relying on the other to reach a resolution. If that's true, he said, his voice low but resolute, then we need to approach the trials ahead with that in mind. Every step we take could reveal not only clues to the treasure's location but also the truth behind the curse. It's all connected, every challenge, every mystery, every choice we make. As the two of them sat in the stillness of the cavern, the enormity of their shared task pressed heavily on them, but it also fueled their determination. The idea that their quests were one and the same made every trial ahead seem less daunting. They weren't just fighting for their individual goals anymore. They were fighting for each other and the future of the reef itself. Serena straightened, a new strength in her posture as she looked at Adrian. We move forward together, she said, her voice resolute. No matter what we face, we'll uncover the truth and restore what was lost. Adrian met her gaze, and for the first time, he felt not just the weight of his father's legacy but also the immense power of a shared destiny. Adrian leaned forward, his gaze unwavering as he looked into Serena's eyes. The glow of the enchanted cavern reflected in his determination, casting subtle highlights on his features. "Our goals are aligned," he began, his voice steady yet filled with conviction. "In a way, this makes our mission even more significant. By working together, we're not just pursuing personal objectives, we're addressing a greater purpose." The weight of his words seemed to echo in the chamber, reverberating against the walls adorned with the history they were now part of. His expression carried both seriousness and hope, as if he could see the vast implications of their quest stretching out before them. Serena listened intently, her own thoughts racing as Adrian's words resonated deeply. He was right. This wasn't just about her burden or his legacy anymore. The reef's magic, the curse, and the treasure were threads in a much larger tapestry, one that connected their lives to the fate of something far greater. She nodded slowly, her voice thoughtful. "You're right. This isn't just about breaking the curse or uncovering the treasure's secrets. It's about restoring balance to the reef, healing the damage done by the sorcerer, and honoring the sacrifices of those who came before us. Together, we can achieve what neither of us could accomplish alone." Adrian's confidence grew as he saw Serena's resolve deepen. "Exactly," he said, his tone encouraging. "Each trial we face, every clue we uncover, it all serves a larger purpose. And knowing that we're working towards something greater than ourselves makes every challenge worthwhile." His gaze shifted briefly to the murals surrounding them, as if drawing strength from the stories they depicted. "This isn't just a journey for us, it's a chance to rewrite the fate of this reef and the lives tied to it. And we owe it to ourselves and to the people who once called this place home to see it through." The two of them sat in reflective silence for a moment, the magnitude of their mission settling over them like a mantle. But instead of feeling daunted, they felt emboldened. Their shared determination seemed to transform the cavern's quiet stillness into a space filled with potential. Serena's lips curved into a small, resolute smile as she spoke. "Then we press on, with our goals united. Whatever lies ahead, we face it together, knowing that we're not just chasing a treasure or lifting a curse, we're reclaiming a legacy and forging a new future." Adrian returned her smile, the spark of partnership and purpose in his eyes illuminating the path they had chosen to walk as one. Serena's eyes locked onto Adrian's, a spark of newfound resolve lighting their depths. Her voice, steady yet tinged with a quiet determination, broke the silence. "I agree," she said firmly. "The curse that binds me to this reef and the treasure your father sought are pieces of a larger mystery, one that neither of us can unravel alone. But together, we stand a chance. Combining our efforts isn't just a choice, it's the only way forward." Her words carried a weight that resonated deeply, both in their immediate significance and in the broader implications of their shared journey. Adrian listened intently, nodding as he considered her perspective. "You're right," he replied, his tone reflective yet filled with a growing sense of purpose. "Understanding the reef's magic is key, not just to breaking the curse, but also to unlocking the truth behind the heart of the reef. Whatever power it holds, it's connected to the treasure and the legacy it represents. If we can uncover those secrets, we'll not only achieve our personal goals but also restore what was lost to time and tragedy." His words hung in the air, laden with the weight of the past and the promise of what could be. Serena's gaze shifted briefly to the murals surrounding them, their ancient artistry depicting the very story they were now living. "The heart of the reef isn't just a magical artifact," she said thoughtfully, her voice soft but resolute. "It's a symbol of everything this reef once stood for: harmony, balance, and protection. If we can uncover its truth and harness its power, we might not only lift the curse but also restore the reef to what it was meant to be. That's a legacy worth fighting for, and it's one I'm willing to share with you." Their eyes met again, the air between them charged with a shared understanding. In that moment, the boundaries of their individual quests dissolved, replaced by a united front against the challenges that lay ahead. Adrian extended a hand, and Serena clasped it firmly, their grip a silent vow. Together, they would navigate the treacherous waters of the reef, not as separate individuals with separate missions, but as partners united by purpose and bound by a growing trust. Whatever trials awaited, they would face them side by side, their resolve stronger than ever. Adrian nodded, a determined smile playing across his lips as conviction settled over him. "It's clear now," he said, his voice steady and purposeful, "that our collaboration is crucial. Neither of us can do this alone. The trials ahead are as much a test of unity as they are of strength. If we want to succeed, we need to approach them with a unified strategy, blending our individual strengths and insights." His words carried an undeniable truth, one that seemed to echo in the cavern's ancient stillness. For the first time, Adrian felt that their paths were not merely converging by chance but were deliberately intertwined by the reef's wall. Serena met his gaze, her eyes filled with agreement and resolve. "You're right," she replied, her voice calm but filled with a quiet intensity. "The reef's enchantments are designed to challenge us on every level, physically, mentally, even emotionally. Together, we bring different perspectives and skills to the table, and that's what will give us an edge. Your resourcefulness and determination, combined with my understanding of the reef's magic, can form a balance the reef might not expect." She paused, her expression thoughtful. "But more than that, we need to trust each other completely. These trials won't just test our abilities, they'll test our bond." Adrian considered her words, a sense of gravity settling in his chest. "Trust," he echoed, his tone reflective. "That's going to be the foundation of everything we do from here on out. The reef isn't just throwing random challenges at us, it's gauging our ability to work together, to adapt and overcome as a team. If we hesitate, if we doubt each other, even for a moment, we risk everything." He took a deep breath, his determined smile softening into something more earnest. "But I trust you, Serena. And I'll do everything I can to make sure we succeed, not just for my father's legacy or the treasure, but for you and the reef as well." Serena's expression softened, her resolve tempered with gratitude. "And I trust you, Adrian," she said sincerely. "I've carried this burden alone for so long, but now I feel like I don't have to anymore. With you by my side, I truly believe we can overcome whatever the reef throws at us." The two of them sat in contemplative silence for a moment, the glow of the cavern's light reflecting their shared determination. In that instant, the enormity of their task seemed less daunting. They were no longer two individuals pursuing separate goals, but a unified force, ready to face the unknown together. Serena's expression softened, her features reflecting both relief and determination as the weight of her words settled between them. "Yes," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Breaking the curse will not only free me from its hold but also potentially unlock the secrets of the treasure. These two goals aren't just connected, they're two sides of the same coin. If we're going to succeed, we need to focus on our shared objectives and commit ourselves fully to this mission." Her words carried a renewed sense of purpose, as though voicing the connection between their quests had solidified her resolve. Adrian nodded, understanding the gravity of what Serena was saying. "You're right," he replied, leaning slightly forward. "This isn't just about finding a way through the trials. It's about embracing the fact that we're stronger together. Every step we take, every challenge we face, is an opportunity to learn more about the reef and about ourselves. We're not just fighting for our own goals anymore, we're fighting for something far greater." His voice was firm, his conviction unmistakable, and for the first time, the daunting task ahead felt like a surmountable challenge. Serena's gaze lingered on Adrian, her appreciation for his determination evident in the way her lips curved into a small, grateful smile. "And that's why we'll succeed," she said, her tone resolute. "Because we're not afraid to lean on each other, to share our strengths and shoulder the burdens together. The reef's magic is unpredictable, but it's also purposeful. I believe it's testing not just our abilities but our unity. If we can prove that we're a true team, I think we'll find the answers we're looking for." She paused, her eyes flickering to the glowing mirrors around them, as though drawing strength from the ancient stories they depicted. Adrian followed her gaze, letting the moment of quiet contemplation ground them. the light from the enchanted crystals seemed to pulse gently, as if in rhythm with their shared determination. "Then let's make that our focus," he said at last, his voice soft but resolute. "No matter what we face, we'll face it together. One trial at a time, one mystery unraveled at a time." He extended a hand toward Serena, and she took it without hesitation. Their clasped hands were a silent vow, a testament to the partnership they had forged and the shared mission that now bound them as firmly as the reef's enchantments bound its secrets. Adrian rose to his feet, the faint glow of the cavern casting determined shadows across his face. He extended a hand toward Serena, his expression resolute but kind. "Then let's continue this journey with renewed purpose," he said, his voice firm yet warm. "We're no longer just allies navigating the same waters. We're partners, bound by a quest that not only aligns our goals but strengthens our resolve." His words carried a weight that resonated deeply, emphasizing the unity they had forged through their shared revelations and hardships. Serena looked up at him, a flicker of surprise and gratitude passing through her eyes before she reached for his hand. His grip was steady, anchoring her in a way she hadn't expected. Rising to stand beside him, she felt a sense of determination growing within her, fed by the clarity of their purpose. "Partners," she echoed softly, as though testing the word. Then, more firmly, she added, "That's exactly what we need to be. The reef's magic has tested us as individuals, but I have no doubt that it will challenge us even more as a team. If we trust in each other, we can overcome whatever lies ahead." Together, they turned toward the pathway that led deeper into the reef, the cavern walls seeming to shimmer as though in agreement with their resolve. The glow of the bioluminescent crystals reflected off the ancient murals, the stories etched into the stone feeling alive with relevance to their mission. Adrian glanced at Serena, her profile illuminated by the soft light. "We'll face it all, every trial, every challenge, with this understanding," he said. "Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that no treasure, no victory, is ever truly achieved alone." Serena met his gaze, her expression steady and filled with a quiet strength. "And no curse is broken without understanding and perseverance," she replied. "Together, we'll uncover the truth of this reef, not just for ourselves but for everyone connected to its history and magic. The queen, the treasure, the curse, they're all pieces of the same puzzle." With a nod, they stepped forward into the unknown, their shared mission lighting the way as they prepared to face whatever mysteries awaited them in the depths of the magical reef. Serena grasped Adrian's hand, her smile warm with a blend of camaraderie and renewed determination. The gesture, though simple, spoke volumes, a pact between two individuals now bound by shared purpose and trust. "Agreed," she said, her voice steady and sure. "Together, we'll face the challenges and uncover the mysteries that lie ahead." Her words carried a quiet strength, affirming their commitment to each other and the journey they had undertaken. For the first time in a long while, she felt the heavy burden of her curse lighten, knowing she wasn't carrying it alone anymore. Adrian's lips curved into a smile that mirrored her own, the sense of unity between them palpable. "Our shared goals will guide us," Serena continued, her gaze unwavering as she looked into his eyes. "And our combined efforts will lead us to success." She glanced at the glowing murals around them, each depicting tales of trials and triumphs. They seemed to draw inspiration from the very walls of the cavern, as though the stories of the past were cheering them on. Serena could feel the resonance of those ancient struggles in her own journey and knew that their alliance was a pivotal step toward rewriting the reef's fate. They stood there for a moment longer, their hands clasped, as though sealing their resolve with the silent language of trust. The faint, bioluminescent glow cast their shadows across the cavern walls, blending them into the murals as if their story was now part of the reef's ancient narrative. Serena's smile faded slightly, replaced by an expression of focused determination. "We'll need to stay vigilant," she said. "Every step we take brings us closer to the truth, but it also means facing greater dangers. The reef won't make this easy for us." Adrian nodded, releasing her hand but holding on to the sense of unity they had just forged. "No, it won't," he agreed. "But if we keep our eyes on the bigger picture and rely on each other, there's nothing we can't face. We've already come this far, and I have no doubt we'll find the strength to go even further. As they turned toward the path leading deeper into the reef, their strides were purposeful and aligned. The weight of their shared mission and the promise of uncovering the reef's secrets propelled them forward, ready to meet the trials that awaited with unwavering resolve. As they prepared to leave the cavern, the air between Adrian and Serena was charged with an unspoken understanding. The dim glow of bioluminescent algae reflected off the damp walls, casting an ethereal light on their faces. Each glance exchanged carried a depth that words couldn't capture, a mutual recognition of how far they had come. The cavern, once a foreboding maze of shadows and dangers, now felt like a sanctuary that had solidified their bond. The trials they had faced within its confines had tested not just their physical endurance, but their ability to trust and rely on one another completely. The magical reef stretched out before them, its mysteries waiting to be uncovered. For Adrian, the adventure ahead represented more than just discovery. It was a chance to protect something greater than himself, and Serena was an anchor in that mission. Her unyielding resolve and sharp instincts were a constant source of inspiration, reminding him why they were here. He adjusted the straps of his gear, his movements steady despite the weight of anticipation. With each step toward the reef, he felt the connection between them strengthening, as if the challenges they had yet to face were already weaving them together in unbreakable threads of trust. Serena, too, felt the shift in their partnership. Her heart swelled with a mixture of pride and gratitude as she observed Adrian's unwavering focus. He had grown more attuned to the reef's rhythms, and his ability to adapt to its unpredictable nature mirrored her own. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she was navigating the unknown alone. Their shared purpose gave her a sense of belonging, and it was this unity that emboldened her to push forward. The cavern had tested her independence, but it had also shown her the strength in having a companion whose goals aligned so seamlessly with hers. As they stepped out of the cavern and into the reef's open expanse, a new wave of determination washed over them. The vibrant, otherworldly coral formation seemed to pulse with life, a reminder of the beauty they were fighting to preserve. They moved in sync, their steps mirroring the rhythm of their shared resolve. Whatever trials lay ahead, they were ready to face them together. The reef's magic wasn't just in its physical wonders, it was in the way it forged bonds, testing and transforming those who dared to explore it. For Adrian and Serena, it was no longer just an exploration. It was a journey that defined who they were becoming, individually and as a team. With their destinies now intertwined, Adrian and Serena stood at the threshold of the unknown, the flickering light of the reef casting vivid hues across their determined faces. The weight of their mission was undeniable, yet it carried a strange sense of clarity. They had come to understand that this journey wasn't just about breaking a curse or uncovering treasure. It was about discovering the depths of their own strengths and the power of unity. The realization filled them with a renewed purpose, sharpening their focus as they prepared to navigate the reef's uncharted waters. Each step forward felt like a declaration of defiance against the challenges that awaited them. The magical reef loomed ahead, a labyrinth of glowing coral spires and whispering currents. Its beauty was both enchanting and deceptive, hiding dangers that would test even the most seasoned explorers. Adrian glanced at Serena, his expression firm yet tinged with admiration. She moved with a quiet confidence, her gaze scanning their surroundings with practiced precision. Her resolve was unshakable, and it mirrored his own. Together, they had become a team forged by necessity and strengthened by trust. Their shared understanding of the stakes, not just for themselves but for the lives intertwined with the reef's mysteries, bound them in ways neither had expected. As the journey continued, the challenges came swiftly and without mercy. Unpredictable currents forced them to adapt, while the reef itself seemed to shift, its ever-changing pathways keeping them on edge. Yet, each obstacle only deepened their bond. Adrian's strength and quick thinking complemented Serena's agility and resourcefulness, their synergy a testament to the unity they had cultivated. Every success, no matter how small, felt like a victory not just against the reef's perils but against the doubts that once lingered in their minds. With each passing trial, they found themselves relying less on spoken words and more on the unspoken language of shared resolve and determination. Finally, As the day's light began to fade, the reef transformed under the deep blues of twilight, its bioluminescence growing ever brighter. Adrian and Serena paused briefly, the stillness allowing them to reflect on how far they had come. The treasure and the promise of breaking the curse still lay ahead, distant yet tangible. But in this moment, the journey itself felt equally significant. The reef had not only tested their resolve but had shown them the strength found in unity, and the courage born from shared purpose. As they stood together, poised to continue their quest, there was no doubt in their hearts that they were ready for whatever challenges the magical reef had yet to reveal.